Miss Eddie Hearn said that you guys had a face time with the Ecstasy and discussed the possible fight with Bud Crawford.
Yeah.
If that fight was next, would you be interested in fighting that fight at 154 pounds?
Like I always say, I don't care. I just want to fight the top guys, the best guys. They're gonna bring the best side out of me, and not these guys that's on the lower level. You know, when you fight somebody that's sharp and good like you know, it make you better. Who knows? You know, the fight could be easier. You know, when you fight somebody on your level or it's supposed to be above your level.
All right, this video is about Jeron Boots Ennis and what he should do in his peculiar situation. Now, Jeron Boots Ennis has over 30 fights. Jeron Boots Ennis has, I think he is 33-0. He just fought David Avanesian. I believe that's how you pronounce it. But it's the guy that Crawford just fought. All right, so Jeron Boots Ennis. What should Jeron Boots Ennis do in his peculiar situation? I mean, he's a guy with 33 fights, no losses, yet he hasn't really faced any notable names in boxing. He's chasing, I want to say he's chasing Terrence Crawford, right? Now, before Terrence Crawford was undisputed, he was chasing the belts. That was the message. He wanted to chase the belts because he was saying that he wants the winner out of the Errol Spence Jr. fight and the Errol Spence Jr. and Crawford fight. He wanted the winner. So he was chasing belts because whoever became undisputed, he wanted, right? Terrence Crawford became undisputed, but Terrence Crawford left the division. He hasn't relinquished the belts yet, but he needs to. That is the peculiar situation. So we can know if Boots Ennis is chasing Crawford or the belts. You see, because Ennis already has a belt. If he fights Crawford, then he will be undisputed. But I don't see Crawford coming back to welterweight. So why is Crawford hanging on to the belts? He's strangling the welterweight division by holding on to those belts. He needs to relinquish them so that new champions can have their chance, right? Other people need to fight for those belts and to move that division forward. So Jeron Boots Ennis can have people to can have opponents that he can face so that he might become undisputed. Now, because he has 33 fights, that's a lot of fights. Because he has 33 fights, he's in the welterweight division where there isn't really a lot of names anymore in the welterweight division. You still have Errol Spence, but Errol Spence he's not fighting right now. So he would have to wait, right? He could move up, but he just got the division, right? He's number one in the division. There's still some smoke in the division. The people just the fighters, they just do not have names. He can still make work of the division to build his resume. He might not be building his resume off of big names, but he can still become undisputed. Now, it will be holding up his PPV, his pay-per-view status, right? If he wants to become a pay-per-view star, you'll have to do something more drastic. I'll talk about that in a second. Like, who does he really have right now? Who does he really have in the welterweight division as it stands? You see? Not too many people. Not too many people. Let's check it out. I want to see I want to see. Okay, so you have Connor Benn. Connor Benn is from the UK. He's 23-0. That might be a good fight. 23-0. Connor Benn from the UK, and he's with Matchroom now. So I'm pretty sure he can get that fight. Let's see if it makes sense, though. He's ranked number 1 in the UK at welterweight. You see? So he's the number 1 guy at welterweight in the UK. So it makes a lot of sense. He's never lost a fight. His KO, I mean, he's gotten 6. He's a 60% KO boxer. You see, he's at a 60% rating for KOs at welterweight. So now let's go see what Jeron Ennis is rated at for his KO status. Should be much higher. So his KO status is 90%. So you weigh 90% versus the 60%. And you got to see, well, 6 out of 10 fights this guy has had, he's knocked people out. 9 out of 10 fights Jeron Boots Ennis he has knocked his opponents out. He's knocked almost every opponent out. So you need somebody who actually has a decent KO rating, to see who's going to get knocked out. If Jeron Boots Ennis, if his defense is not impeccable, right? I don't believe his defense is impeccable. I believe he needs work in that area. So if he needs work in that area, then he might have a chance. If he needs work in that area, then Connor Benn might have a chance. So that could make for a good fight. Wouldn't be for a title, but it would make probably for a good fight. 23 people. 23 people, and he has knocked out more than 12. Let me see. Who else could he fight? Not that many people. Oh, you do have Mario Barrios. Now, Mario Barrios just fought Ugas. He beat Ugas, not the stoppage. He didn't beat Ugas in a stoppage, so that says a lot about Mario Barrios. Earl Spence Jr. beat Ugas in a stoppage, but it was the 10th round. You see? So here's why the Mario Barrios fight makes sense. He has a belt, but it isn't the belt. He has a belt, but it isn't the belt. So it's kind of if it's for the belt, it's a waste of time. But if it's for a name, it makes sense because Mario Barrios beat the guy that beat Pacquiao that lost to Spence for a unification bout in the 10th round. Right? So Ugas makes sense. Now, if Jeron Boots Ennis fights Mario Barrios, it needs to be after he fights Ugas. So he still has Ugas, he still has Mario Barrios. But I think he should fight Connor. I'm not sure. Maybe give Connor Benn a little bit more time, give him 2 to 3 more fights so he can get his stats up. If he has a 60% knockout ratio and he's undefeated, I'm pretty sure he'll still have his O, and his knockout ratio might go up. So then that will make for a better fight down the line. And it gives him time to wait for these belts that Terrence Crawford needs to relinquish. So yeah, I say give Conor Ben some time. Go fight probably one other guy, and then go look for the fight for Ugas if Ugas is still fighting, because he is getting up in age, and his defense is not that good, so he takes a lot of punishment. But he does have a name, you see. He beat Manny Pacquiao. He was a champion, and he fought a unification bout with Earl Spence. And Earl Spence couldn't get him out of there until the 10th round. You see, that's big. He lasted with Earl Spence 10 rounds, only 2 more rounds to go. And not only that, he almost knocked out Earl Spence. So that says a lot. He'll be a champion, right? It's about how many champions can you fight? How many champions have you fought on your resume? So if he fights Ugas, he can check that off. I fought a champion, you see? Also, I fought somebody who fought a legend, a Hall of Famer, Pacquiao. So that makes a lot of sense. And then he goes for Mario Barrios, someone who beat Ugas, but he didn't beat Ugas until it went the distance. So it wasn't a stoppage, you see. So if he fights Mario Barrios, let me see. If he fights Mario Barrios and gets the stoppage, let me reverse that, right? Mario Barrios fought Ugas, but did not get the stoppage. Mario Barrios also lost to Tank Davis, right? I don't see Mario Barrios as being a great fighter, but he's a decent fighter, right? So fighting Mario Barrios doesn't say a lot, but he beat Ugas. Earl Spence beat Ugas, but Earl Spence is nowhere to be found. So he has to beat Ugas and then beat someone who beat Ugas. Case in point, this guy is fighting people's leftovers, right? He just fought Terrence Crawford's leftover and beat him, as he should have. If Terrence Crawford beat him, everybody else expects him to beat him, right? So it's a fight that you're looking for this guy that can almost beat you, but it's not a guy that can almost beat you. It's a guy that you can most definitely beat. Everybody knows you're going to beat him. And that was a part of his that was a fight included in his deal with Matchroom. You see? Could he have found a worthier opponent? I think so. But it's about his goals, right? He wants to be, if he fought David, the guy that Terrence Crawford beat, and it was at welter, then he must want to be the guy at welter, right? Because his first fight in his deal, if it was about moving up, fighting at a different weight class, he would have did that. You see? So it makes sense that he wants to stay at welter. Stop chasing Terrence Crawford. Terrence Crawford is not going to give you the fight because Terrence Crawford is on his own warpath right now. You see, he's looking for other fights. It's not going to work. Terrence Crawford needs to relinquish the belts so that you can have other opportunities within your respective weight class. welterweight, 147. But it's not much there for you to get a big name. But you can, the biggest thing you can do at welterweight is to become undisputed. So it would be the last 4 people who would have been undisputed would be what? Canelo, Terrence Crawford, Devin Haney, and you. You see? Jeron Boots Ennis. Excuse me. So I think that is the best bet at welterweight for Jeron Boots Ennis. Is not that many people he can face. If he faces anyone who is not you know, they don't, I mean, that's it. Now, if he really wants to be bold, right? If he really wants that Terrence Crawford fight and other fights that could really give him a name, then he has to step out of the weight class and he has to get out of the belt mentality. He already has 33 fights. Right? So if he really wants to do something bold, he'll go fight David Benavidez. If he fights David Benavidez and gets the stoppage, I believe, my personal belief is that all the big names will be wanting to fight him. Here's why. He has no other big names on his resume. So in that, people are going to say, okay, even though he's a knockout artist, and even though he seems to be a very competitive fighter, he's only fought one fight that really mattered. And that would be the David Benavidez. Why David Benavidez? Because David Benavidez is a great fighter, and he wants Canelo. And if he wants Canelo, he's going to say, well, if I want Canelo, I'll go through Terrence Crawford. You see, this guy is hungry. David Benavidez is hungry. He would fight Terrence Crawford just to get to Canelo. Even though he's kind of forgotten about the Canelo fight because he hasn't gotten it yet, if he fights David Benavidez, someone who Canelo has given an offer to, I think it was somewhere around the $200 million mark up front or guarantee or whatnot. And then Terrence Crawford also got an offer from Canelo, $150 million. So if he goes out, so forget about Terrence Crawford. Don't even think about Canelo. Go get David Benavidez. Send him some smoke, right? If you're that guy. If you're risky, if you're a risk taker, and you really have a 90% knockout rating, you should go fight David Benavidez. See if Eddie Hearn can get that fight done in your deal. If you do that, you'll put the boxing world on notice, and you would most definitely shock the boxing fans. You see? Everybody would want to see you fight a lot of people, and you just might become a pay-per-view candidate. Not a star, but a candidate. Why a candidate? Because not even David Benavidez is a pay-per-view star. He hasn't even, that's what he wants. David Benavidez wants a name. But if you want a name, if you want to be mentioned amongst the greats, you got to do something great, because you're kind of, how do you say, stagnant in that welterweight division. Plus, you got to live out this deal you have with Matchroom. And it's only so much Eddie Hearn is going to be able to do for you. You see? It just is what it is. I think Eddie Hearn can sell a fight, but as far as picking your opponent, he's not, to me, the best when it comes to putting together big matches, right? So we'll see how it goes. Hopefully, Jeron Boots Ennis will fulfill his purpose in boxing and become a pay-per-view star and a great name.